Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into the latest edition, the latest episode of the AP Film Room, live tonight on the Arrowhead Pride Twitter, YouTube, Facebook page. We're coming to you wherever you can see us, and we're here to talk some ball tonight, as usual, on a Tuesday evening. I am Ron Cobb Jr., the lead analyst at the site. As usual, joining me are Caleb James and Nate Christensen at CJ Scoobs and at NateCH32 on Twitter. My guys, my boys. We missed Nate last week breaking down the X's and O's, but we got him back. So I'll have to start with him. Nate, how you feeling after the Chiefs advanced to 5-1 this time around?
Hold on. I keep cutting out for some reason. So go to Caleb for a second. I'm going to try and fix my internet real quick.
Oh, you're good. You're good. We'll get Nate going. Caleb, what's going on tonight, my guy?
Man, it feels like it's been forever since they played. It's like that,
I know, it is weird.
You come off that short week and like we're cramming to do like those shows last week and get our articles in, and then it's like all of a sudden it's game day again, and then we get rolling back into it, and now it's like they haven't played in almost 10 days. But this will be a good couple little weeks though coming up here.
Yeah, it'll be nice to get back on the regular schedule. We won't have another Thursday game the rest of the year. After 2 Thursday games, it does kind of throw you out of whack a little bit. But we are back. We are back in it, and so is Nate. Nate's back in it. He's here. Nate, how you doing tonight? 5-1 Chiefs.
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be back after missing last week. Last Thursday was probably one of the more boring Chiefs games I remember in a while.
True.
Usually when I take like notes after the game, because I like rewatch the game and stuff, like I usually have like 5 to 6 pages between offense and defense. And after this week, I had like three pages. I just didn't have that much to take away from it. It was pretty boring for the most part, but it's good to always win. It's Thursday night games, always say, are very weird, especially when it's a divisional opponent. So getting the win is ultimately the most important thing.
Yeah, I mentioned this on the pod. I regret my wording on my gamer. I do the gamer usually for the site, just the final score. And I kind of mentioned the Chiefs struggled to the 19-8 victory. They didn't struggle. They kicked the Broncos' butt, but they just could not finish in the end zone. And it was driving in the red zone, and that was driving all of us crazy. And we're not necessarily going to break that down tonight. A lot of the red zone stuff was just kind of, unfortunate things. It was a little bit of the receivers not getting open, but it was kind of just, some unlucky things happening on third down. Them getting into third down, that's one thing. They need to kind of avoid getting into third down. But I'm going to start tonight, fellas, and I'm just going to talk about kind of the pass game in general. A little bit of Rashee Rice right here, because it was good to see him continue to be used as the primary slot player, and not just as kind of that, getting maybe slants or quick screens, which we did see as well, but actually getting, legitimate passes over the field, just working in between zone defenders, obviously. That's the thing. We haven't really seen Mahomes target any receiver in this aspect over the middle, down the field. He is, Rashee does a good job of just getting inside and getting quick separation, but he doesn't do anything special. I've seen MVS get open like this plenty of times where Mahomes doesn't hit him, or even Sky at times where he gets this open and Mahomes doesn't hit him. It's just, it's clear that Mahomes trusts going to Rashee in rhythm, and you're going to see it in an even more important spot later in the game here, where it's a similar play, right? He just sits right before that linebacker. Rashee does a good job of not going too far, right? He sits right before the linebacker, right past the linebacker clearing, going to go with Kelsey because that's where the defense thinks he's going with the ball. Obviously, Surtain jumps up there too. Rashee does a great job of sitting right before the linebacker, and Mahomes hits him in with good timing. You'll see it better from the end zone angle. But that's the thing. I have seen Mahomes hesitate to throw these passes to other players at the receiver position this year, and it's just clear that he's trusting Rashee to make those plays. And those are kind of the timing or the trust things with Mahomes, but at the same time, Rashee just makes plays when he has the ball in his hands. And this was such a Sammy Watkins or Juju Smith-Schuster play. Like, I feel like I've seen them each make plays on this exact play. And it's what they're going to continue to do with Rashee. It's the RPO slant. Mahomes is going to read this linebacker, kind of read the flow of the defense at the second level. There is that window that opens up. So it's going to be a quick slant to Rashee. He's going to throw it, and boom, he's off to the races. He looks like okay. I want you guys to get in on this, because to me he actually looks like a horse when he's running. And he went to SMU. He's a Mustang, but like, I don't know, this dude just gallops. He is a stallion in the open field. I don't know. I don't think I'm making that up. I think we got an actual horse on our team, and he's making plays once they get him in the open field, and you're going to just continue to see him get, plays into the open field. But I mentioned, Mahomes showing some trust in Rashee. At the same time, it doesn't compare to the trust he has in Kelsey. And I still think it is kind of, messing with the offense a little bit. Obviously, this becomes a completion. So you can't say it too much here. But at the same time, you're going to see the defense, the way it kind of flows, they do kind of, maybe think to Kelsey a little bit, kind of flow to Kelsey. And that actually allows Rashee to get open on the shallow crosser here. The defense isn't going to pick him up. You're actually going to see here the cornerback, or actually the slot defender kind of realize, oh, shoot. Excuse me, I'm talking about the guy that's actually coming over from across the field. You're going to see him realize, oh, shoot, someone pick up. No one picks Rashee up coming into the flat here. Would have been an easy first down. But you're going to see Mahomes going to pretty much look at him and pass him up to go across his body and back across the field to Kelsey, which Kelsey does find the space to get open, right? I mean, this probably is an easy completion in Mahomes' mind. But to me, it's just like, just get the, that's the easy catch and run right there. You get Rashee the ball in his hands. He's running to the first down, but he goes to Kelsey. Just an example of, again, Mahomes maybe just feeling more comfortable, even if it's the harder throw, wanting to target Kelsey in those situations. Now, I will say, Denver was doing a pretty good job of kind of mixing it up in terms of limiting downfield throws, right? A lot of what Mahomes and the Chiefs were getting between the 20s were just 15 yards Kelsey, or then Rashee was getting it, and then obviously the run game. But what you saw Denver kind of, play from too high a lot and then rotate to one high late in the, after the snap. And here it's actually what caused this interception that got called back for DPI, which, it was DPI, but I mean, it was a pretty touchy call in terms of, it was a pretty touchy play in terms of the cornerback didn't really like mess up the play. It still could have been a pick, even if he doesn't commit the DPI. But what you're going to see here is the Broncos start out in too high. Mahomes is thinking too high still after the snap. And so he's trying to look off this safety. He's trying to make him, commit to this side of the field while Sky runs the post to this side of the field. And if he is covering this half, this is probably going to open up if Justin Simmons jumps this like he does. But what happens is it turns into a one high look, a one high shell. He runs right into the post high safety, and it's an easy pick. And so, Denver did do a good job of confusing that a little bit. Mahomes had to recognize that. And so later in the game, he comes back to it. And this is actually the play Justin Watson gets hurt on. He catches them rotating late into the one high structure and gets them in a vertical shot. So you're going to see Denver's in a too high look at the snap, but you're going to see Justin Simmons kind of come, over Kelsey, or over the middle of the field, I should say. And the other safety from the other side is going to rotate to a one high look. Well, boom, that plays perfectly into an outside shot for Justin Watson going down the right sideline. Should have been a catch, should have been a big play. And somehow instead it ends up in Justin Watson dislocating his elbow. Talk about, going from what looked like a great play to a very negative play, because now we're not going to see him for a few weeks. And so with that, without seeing Justin Watson, we're going to have to see a little bit maybe more of someone like Sky Moore running, these outside perimeter downfield routes. And, we saw a little flash of it at the very end of the game here. He helped them seal the game with what I thought was a really nice route. Get this thing out of the way so you can see it. He's on this quarters corner, right? Or maybe a cover three corner, kind of a man corner, I guess, playing off ball. And he's going to work inside. So he's going to give himself a little more space to the sideline by working inside, right? And he's going to just give enough of that wiggle at the top of the route where he gives enough of a wiggle to the inside, looking like he could maybe be running that in route that the Chiefs love to do in those situations. And Sky runs it quite a bit. He gives that wiggle, gives it an effective wiggle, breaks back outside, has that separation. Mahomes' timing still is a little late, and I think that speaks to maybe still the uncomfortableness of Mahomes throwing to Sky. But you can't argue with how well Sky creates separation here on the out route past the sticks, getting into the red zone basically on the Chiefs' last drive. It'll be good to see maybe Sky get a few more of these opportunities. And the other guy that probably will in Justin Watson's absence, who didn't really have much of a game, obviously, against Denver, he did the previous week, was Justin Ross. and so we'll see him maybe a little more on the outside too. But Nate, let me just throw it to you. We're 6 weeks in now. We've seen this receiver room in a few different games now, different ways. How do you feel about Rashid kind of stepping into the role, and how do you feel about how other guys could maybe fill in for Justin Watson getting hurt for these next few games?
Well, Justin Watson being hurt probably, unfortunately, means we're just going to get more Marquez Valdes-Scantling because they basically run the same route tree, and that's not a good thing. I'll just keep it at that. I do like what we've seen from Rashee Rice. There's still things that frustrate me. I was a fan of him pre-draft, so it's not like a whole thing, but like his blocking can be frustrating at times, which makes it hard to get him on the field at times. There's still some stuff that against man coverage I don't feel good against. Although I will say he's getting better at beating man, just using his body more, which is an advantage. Just being able to be big and use your body is an advantage against man coverage. You don't need to be a silky route runner to beat man coverage in the NFL. So continued improvement in that is fair. And listen, the Chiefs don't have the luxury of taking Rashee Rice's development slowly. Like he just has to play. There's no other. They can't Sky Moore him from last year where they had the luxury of other players. He needs to play, and as long as he continues to produce and do the right things, like I'm happy seeing him on the field and playing well.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's as long as he continues to produce when he's given the opportunities, there's no reason to not keep giving them to him. Just because he's a rookie doesn't mean he can't play over Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore in the slot. I'm up for it because it seems like Mahomes was up for it, and that's what matters. Caleb, I know you look at the offense too, so you're going to give us a few offensive clips. So let's go ahead and get into that. But obviously, if you got any Rashee takes or receiver takes, get them off.
Yeah, for sure. And while I'm pulling that up, I think the one thing we all liked in the draft process for Rashee was his yard after catch ability. We saw that because he had 74 yards receiving, while 55 of them were 50 of them were yards after the catch. So I think we really saw that. They ran that little RPO power look. That's one of the first times we've seen them run that. That's fun to see because you saw the linebackers actually had to respect it there. They couldn't just say, oh, it's just the RPO zone, so there's no way they're going to hand it off. We have no real threat. They had to respect it when they saw Trey Smith pull.
I'm glad you mentioned that though, because I meant to mention that. Yeah, that was really cool to see them run it's usually just zone out of that, right? But they actually ran and you're right. I that's a great point that the linebackers are going to respect it even more on the pull. So great call there.
Yeah, but I mean the offense was bad all the way around. I just got a few clips here to amplify.
Yeah, but it was, and I know you're going to talk about it, but some of the things they tried to do. But let's get into it, Caleb.
Let's see here. And they were bad in the red zone. They were bad on third down. This is their worst game on third down they've had in a long time. They only had 4 conversions and 13 attempts, which is weird because they had 400 yards of total offense otherwise. But just rolling here, we'll see it. They bring Sky Moore in motion. They're going to run the little run action zone type look with Sky coming back across into the flat. Credit to the right edge because he actually gets in between Mahomes and Sky is not looking here when he should be. I was hard on Mahomes live time because I saw Moore come across like that, and I'm like, he's got to be open. He wasn't really, but I mean, you see no more real separation from anyone, and I mean, this was the play right before the Tobe special, which we don't need to get into that. Which it's 3rd down and 1, and they were doing this, so I don't have any answers for why that would be something. And oh man, Mahomes almost got it there. But
yeah, can you see how close that ball is to Sky? Because I kind of made a comment on Twitter that I think this is on. This is one of the reasons why Sky can struggle is because he has an 18th percentile wingspan, and he's small and short. We've talked about that, Nate. Caleb, I don't know. Can you tell how close this ball is, or is it just unreachable?
It's getting a little closer. It's closer than you would think it would be, but Mahomes is Mahomes. And Sky's in the weird spot where he gets open and he's in the right spot a lot of the time, but some of these crunch time plays he can't always execute on, and then people get mad when Mahomes doesn't always look his way. I'm like, that's a real awkward situation to be in. But I mean, got to keep the franchise happy. This is a play I bet Mahomes would have liked to have back, though, because he scrambles out of the pocket, which he didn't really need to. But look how open Noah Gray got at the bottom of the screen. You got Kelsey and Toney kind of lined up right there. And then you've got Gray lined up in the slot, and all eyes are on Kelsey and Toney. They just run their little hitches with Pacheco leaking out. So those three are drawing a lot of the attention. Gray kind of gets this corner route. He's got a lot of space to where he could get it off, but Mahomes scrambles. And then you see downfield Kelsey and Toney. They occupy the same area in the scramble drill. Justin Ross might have been streaking open. We don't need to get into that, though. But, yeah, man, this is one that I bet Mahomes would have liked to have back. And he was good for, he had good yards, but, he was still off. It's yeah, he's feeling the pressure, but Trey Smith gets a heck of a block, and Mahomes just sits in there for another second. Yeah, you're going to have these rushers in your face, but that pass to Gray should be something he's able to complete. And then Kelsey and Toney occupying that same little area downfield, he didn't really know where to go to. And then they had this, which probably would have been a little closer than people think, because Donovan Smith gets beat to the inside here. So Pacheco would have had to fight for it, but just the surge that the double teams between Smith and Jawan Taylor and Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey and Toney create, you've got to get a yard in there, man. If you're Toney, you got to give that off. I know you're trying to make a play and they're trying to keep him involved in the offense, and he scored the touchdown, but I mean, you gotta give that ball off, or you should just line up and try to run it normally. And I was not a very big fan of some of the trick plays. I don't get some of this stuff in the short yardage. They run some plays, like the one down there where they had the Noah Gray sneak. I didn't like that a lot. I'm not going to clip that, but then they run this disaster. And to be honest, I'm always there's two types of teams that run trick plays like this. There's bad teams will run stuff like that, and then teams that know they're good and are just messing with people. Like last year when the Chiefs are doing that stuff, yeah, they're just messing with the Raiders. They're having fun in a game that doesn't mean anything because they know they're going to win so bad. And this year it's I'm not saying they're a bad team, but I don't feel like they've really done anything to earn being able to have that kind of fun or run those kind of plays this year.
Dude, I agree to an extent, because the funny thing is that, you talk about this, you talk about something like that, messing with teams. I think it's more about messing with future teams, right? Maybe messing with the Bills down the road or someone down the road. They put this on film, shoot, now we have to be ready for this kind of film, for this kind of trick play, maybe. But then you do it against a team, obviously, that you feel like you can beat pretty good. But I agree. This offense has not been enough in a rhythm to not try to just run the offense and get that right before you're doing, the one you just showed. The last one was that one drove me crazy. The toss back almost got fumbled. Clyde almost fumbled that before it even got to Toney to throw. So yeah, I don't know, Nate. Before I throw it back to Caleb, do you agree on that kind of sentiment?
So this is what I think I maybe tweeted this out, or I talked about it with you guys. The Chiefs need to diversify Kadarius Toney's package beyond just designer plays, because there are only so many designer plays in the NFL. You can run jet sweeps, you can do the double reverse, whatever. If you're doing that, especially with the frequency the Chiefs do it with on the field, that's just an easy tell for defenses. When Toney's on the field, it's okay, well, here's the 6 plays the Chiefs are going to run. We can, be prepared for that. So they just need to, you don't have to abandon the cool, sweeps and stuff like that, but you got to diversify the package a little bit more. Otherwise, It's just an easy tell, right? There's no point to having trick plays if they're not tricking anyone. So that's kind of why they just need to, I against Minnesota, they let him run a couple option routes and they let him do a couple things in the slots. That's what we need. We need a little more of that, because then defenses have to respect that. But the Chiefs just don't do that enough right now, and that's something that frustrates me. He has the talent to do that, but they need to expand the grips of the offense a little bit so that those designer plays can kind of hit again.
I mean, you could even argue that, I don't know. I feel like Toney hasn't even looked that great on jet sweeps and stuff. They should use him more. Like you just said, an option route. He is pretty good at getting, into open space, finding the right, like he's done that. I mean, we've seen him do that. We've seen him make catches downfield. So I agree with you. I think they should play him just more snaps. I don't know if it's like a health thing.
He looks slow to me. I'll be honest. Like he doesn't look that fast.
I agree.
Right now. Like I don't know if he's health. Like he had the what injury did he have in training camp? Was knee injury?
It was knee. Yeah, it was knee that he tweaked, and then like this year he had the toe that's like popped up on the injury report that he almost.
Yeah, I mean it's always a reality with him, but like when I watch him right now run, I'm like, this is not a guy that looks like athletic.
No, I agree. There was one jet sweep that I had to tweet it out afterwards. I was like, oh my god, like that was ugly. And maybe that's why because I've kind of complained they're using Sky maybe too much on those jet sweeps. But maybe that's why, because he actually might be the best option if you don't want to just give it to Rasheed and like let him actually run, actual routes. And so maybe that's why Sky's being the McColl of the offense sometimes, even though he's not McColl athletic or explosive. All right, Caleb, let's talk some defense. You're going to talk a little bit of defense, and then Nate's going to finish us off with more.
Yeah, and the Chiefs' defense has been awesome this year. They're not like a boring defense that they're just going out there and like, they're in the right spot. They're running around hitting people, getting to the football, making some of these fun plays all the way around. And boy, Nick Bolton, I mean, Russell Wilson just stared down the receiver here, and Bolton just kind of he didn't luck his way into this one. But I mean, when we go to the end zone view down here, you'll be able to see like he's reading the eyes all the way, like some pretty bad quarterbacking by Mr. Unlimited there. And, but it is nice to have Bolton back. He did come out and like miss a tackle right out of the gates. And I was like, that was ugly. We don't usually see him do that stuff. And then he comes out and has an interception, which is definitely not what we see him do a lot of. So still, it's nice to have Bolton back out there. And then how about this? So we got to see some guys get a little more playing time. We haven't. I assume it's because there's the short week and they're giving a couple of guys a little more rest. But we got to see Malik Herring get in there a little bit. He beats Mike McGlinchey, and they get the big stop on the 3rd and short situation. These defensive linemen, they all know Charles Omenahue's coming back at some point. So someone's not going to have a job. Someone's probably going to get demoted to the practice team or just outright released. So good job by Herring. I thought he made a couple of decent plays in there. Sneed and Tranquil get in there also. We come down here, 3rd down and 10 situation. And which one would I have here? Oh, yeah, this is just good coverage. Jalen Watson. So we hadn't heard Jalen Watson's name for a while. And he got a couple of times later on. He got the PI. And then I think Cortland Sutton a little later on. He mossed him in the end zone a little bit. Not exactly the greatest play in the world, but it was quite athletic. It was a really athletic catch, and that's good coverage by him there. He's been a guy we haven't really heard his name as much this season. But I want you to watch something here, something I've kind of noticed they've been starting to do. Look how tight Jones and Karlaftis are right off of one another. They've got like almost a little double C gap thing. Chris is head up on the tackle. Karlaftis is just outside. You got Tranquil walked up there. So I think the idea of this is they're trying to pull a full slide to the right so they can eventually bring someone like you see the late pressure off the edge there. But, this was the Karlaftis tip pass. Yep. I meant to say earlier on this, the Chiefs are leading the league in batted passes. They have 11. Karlaftis, Jones, and Mike Dana are all in the top 10 in that category. So,
Dude, sorry, this is a Joe Colin stat. Last year, they were really good at it too. They continue to be very good at it. I think this is an effort stat, and Joe Colin just gets in their butts about effort. And guys like Dana, Karlaftis, and Jones obviously is just so massive. But go ahead. I just love it. I love it.
No, dude, you're absolutely right on that one. They just, even if they are not going to get the most sacks, batted passes are still loss of down plays. They prevent big plays. Chris Jones dropping into coverage there. I don't ever need to see that again. I want to see him doing this. He's got like 10 sacks versus Mike McGlinchey in the last calendar year. Mike McGlinchey still hasn't found a way to block Chris Jones in quite a while, and Chris just gets him there, blasts his way around the edge. Karlaftis, little bit of bend on Greg Dulcich there and Garrett Bowles. They try to double him, gets inside, then fires back through. He jumps on the pile there late also. And then this play late in the game, I mean, Trent McDuffie is an actual ball hawk. Oh, wait, no. That wasn't the McDuffie play. That fired. I had a Trent McDuffie play fired up in there somewhere. It doesn't look like it quite made it through, but that's okay because it was just that last play of the game there. But I mean, yeah, defense is having fun. They hit the quarterback a lot. They tip passes. They force a lot of turnovers. They're just, I mean, it's a super fun unit to watch right now.
Yeah, I will say I tweeted this out a little bit earlier today, but the Chiefs right now rank third in the NFL in lowest EPA per dropback allowed, and they are second in the NFL in success rate allowed per dropback. Only the Browns are better so far this year, meaning the Browns are the only defense allowing, a successful dropback less often than the Chiefs are. Chiefs defense, especially the pass defense, has been nuts this year. So shout out all three levels. And Nate's going to talk about the front level again for us because we love the big boys here. We love our big guys in the trenches on the AP Film Room podcast YouTube show. Oh, take it away.
Yeah. So to talk about Derrick Nnadi, these guys can attest. Before the season, like in the off-season process, I was like very actively complaining about the nose tackles.
Yeah, me too. We all were.
I was like, really, the Chiefs are just going to go into the season with Derrick Nnadi on a minimum contract, who had his snaps decreased for 4 straight years, and not have like any other like depth or options at the position. But I'll own it. I was wrong. Derrick Nnadi has played very, very good football this year, and there's not like necessarily a like distinct like difference in his game, but he's just playing better. So I just have some clips to kind of show just things I've appreciated from his game this year. First clip here. One thing I've always appreciated about Derrick Nnadi is that he does like track the ball pretty well, which like is like the essential part of like playing nose tackle for the most part. So Jets are going to kind of run just like this inside zone run, kind of going here. And you notice Derrick Nnadi, he's playing this backside A gap, and you just kind of notice like right off the snap, like look at his eyes, right? Just like look at the head. He's like facing towards the running back. He's kind of got this inside shoulder like pinned right here on this center. He's going to be able to kind of ride in. And he's got this backside kind of A-gap completely sealed off. He's got his hips kind of parallel to where the running back is going. Once you kind of see the running back kind of decelerate as he starts to try and cut back, like Nnadi has a perfect positioning for this. So he's able to kind of use his strength leverage, just get in the hole there. Mike Dana makes a good play as well. But even if Dana wasn't there, Nnadi is absolutely making that play to stuff that run play. I think that's one thing he's always just been really good at, is just knowing where the ball is and being able to kind of fall back. It's an underrated trait for defensive tackles. I'm trying to pull this next clip here. One thing about Nnadi is the past few years, he really has dealt with a lot of injuries, just attrition in his body and things like that. But for this year, he's looked noticeably healthier from my perspective. And I think that kind of shows out with his kind of explosiveness and like power in his hands. So you're going to kind of see here, he's right here kind of at this one tech position. And it's like, he's not like the most explosive player. Like, just look at him kind of get out of the blocks, push like this. I believe it's the center. He just pushes him straight backwards, kind of gets easy penetration into the backfield. And that's just like a noticeable difference in his game this year. He's just playing with more power in his hands. He's out of the stance quicker. I thought these past few years, he was always a little bit slow out of the stance. And it's just hard to play nose tackle that way when you're letting guys just get to you easily. But he's just playing with more power. He's just playing with more kind of force through his hands, which is something I appreciate. One thing about Nnadi, like I know through the years, he's, like I said, he's dealt with a variety of injuries, but it really feels like he's always dealt with a lot of like hip injuries. I always feel like that's something that's on the report. And I think that kind of zapped some of his agility and ability to kind of deal with some of the zone blocks, but he's been doing a good job of that again this year. I kind of mentioned it on the article for the website. Playing with closed hips, meaning you kind of have your hips parallel to like the line of scrimmage, is really important against zone blocks. Because if you have your hips kind of facing towards the sideline in an open position, it's hard to cut back, right? When you're 330 pounds, it's hard to kind of spin around and kind of, take off the cutback line. And it's also easier to kind of seal him. So just you watch Nnadi, and he's just taking on this double. He doesn't get moved very much as this guard goes to climb towards the linebacker. he's just able to kind of just hold his ground. His pads are low. His shoulders underneath this guy's shoulders. The leverage is good. The outside arm is free. He's able to just kind of ride down the line of scrimmage and just make a tackle here. And again, it's just pretty simplistic stuff, but that's something he just wasn't doing as well these past few years. But he's proven that he's been able to do it this year. And if you read the article on the website, I kind of mentioned that Nnadi's game against Minnesota was like very underrated for the most part. And I'm just going to show this one kind of clip, not go through all of them. But the Chiefs were playing a ton at too high in that game, even like on base downs and under center stuff because the threat of Justin Jefferson. So they were like, the Vikings were like, okay, we're going to try and run the ball against you. And Derrick Nnadi blew up a lot of these runs. And this one run in particular was a huge like game changer. The Vikings are kind of going to be running just zone away from Derrick Nnadi. And they actually do get like a pretty big hole here. Tershawn Wharton kind of gets in the backfield, kind of washed out. This defensive end, I don't know who this defensive end is, but he's kind of like, there's a huge hole right here. Like this is a ton of space. This is ultimately like Cam Akers running back would be one-on-one with Mike Edwards. Like this could turn into a touchdown, but Nnadi is just able to get over the top of this and just make kind of a game-changing tackle. Like he does kind of get pushed into it, but just the overall, like this is just a game-saving play for the most part. The speed, the tackling ability, doesn't miss a tackle. Like that was a huge play in that game. And like even when I was going back and watching film, I was like, that was a much bigger play than I remembered. But overall, Nnadi, like everything's working well for the Chiefs defense, but like the past few years, it's just it's been a struggle for him. And I think there was a lot of times the Chiefs really struggled to stop the run because Nnadi just couldn't handle a lot of things as a nose. But the fact that he looks, like he did in the 2019 range, that's incredibly important for this defense. Fingers crossed that his health continues to be good. It's really hard to play nose tackle. It's just a position that wears you down. But for a position that the Chiefs did not put a lot of investment in, they're getting more than their investment worth with Nnadi's play. And it's just something exciting to see because I love nose tackles. I loved young Derrick Nnadi, and it's good to see him kind of rebound after kind of a rough stretch in his career.
Yeah, Nnadi's not the type of dude either you want to like have like a negative rooting interest for. I mean, dude like donates so much to dog, the KC Pet Project or whatever, and like I think it's like each tackle he gets, he donates so much money or something. Shout out Derrick Nnadi, such a good dude. Chiefs, Chief through and through, obviously, and yeah, I do think he's kind of revitalized. And the one thing I will say is I think the coaches have helped him a little bit. Because I think that first clip you showed against the Jets was a perfect example, and some of the other ones were too. But, I think he's just better when he's just asked to kind of like two gap and control one player instead of having to double team, obviously, over and over and have to, absorb two blockers all the time. Kind of allowing him to kind of just man up on a center and just kind of, run the line and like, shed this dude when he needs to. Because you're right, he does have good vision. He always has. And so I think he's just better when he kind of can play in that respect. And the Chiefs are obviously doing more of those odd man fronts, more of those, where they have him as the nose and true, 5 techs with the linebackers over the guards. And so I think Nnadi's excelling kind of in that role. So Caleb, how are you feeling about Derrick Nnadi?
Oh, it's awesome to see him having the bounce back year, like you said. And this is the best he's looked since probably 2020, I'd say. And, it's always nice because, the thing about him is he always plays hard. He's like always going to give it his all when he is out there on the field. And like, there was like, there wasn't like a ton of stiff competition, but we were like thinking guys like Danny Shelton or Keandre Coburn were going to come in, and you can obviously see the kind of competitor he was. Like, I don't think that was by accident, but like he elevated his play back to where it needed to be a quality starting nose tackle because the Chiefs did have those other options there in camp.
Yeah, we may have fired him up a little bit. Who knows? I mean, we may, because trust me, I was writing articles. I was, Danny Shelton's making this team. Keandre Coburn can impact this team right away.
Neil Farrell, who hasn't even played.
And they traded for Neil Farrell. Like, I mean, if that doesn't tell you that this team even was kind of, maybe, doing whatever they could to, get competition for him.
Well, and they signed Nnadi to a minimum after cutting his snaps for years. That's what like I kept coming back to that like endlessly. I was like, you've been cutting his snaps for years and not paying him a lot of money. Like, why are you still expecting like starting level nose play? But they've been proven right so far. So like I'll be wrong about that. Like I was really concerned about that going into the season, but if he continues to play this well, then like I'll just be wrong. I'm fine with being wrong. He's playing great football.
Yeah, no, I have very similar thoughts and feelings about it. Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see this entire defense gelling, this entire team, maybe getting into a groove. With all the, we like to, nitpick, on the show. Hey, it's because this team has very high expectations, very high standards, and what do you know, with all through the negativity maybe and some of the doubts, the Chiefs stand with the best record in the NFL. 2 games up in their division, and they have a defense that looks like one of the best in the in the Mahomes era, probably the best since Spagnuolo has gotten here, and it's good. It's good times. Let's just say that, fellas. So appreciate everyone joining us tonight. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you follow all of us on Twitter, on the site arrowheadpride.com. We have constant articles coming out for you, breaking down what happened in the previous game, what's going to happen in the game coming up. So make sure you check it all out. For Caleb, for Nate, I'm Ron. Thanks for joining us tonight. Go Chiefs.